Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente, joined as always by AJ for the last week in Tennessee.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
I'm so tired, but yay.
Yay. And joining us from Houston, Texas, Dan, the man, the burrito eating man, Fishman.
What is up, people? It's actually a breakfast taco, chorizo,
breakfast
and
taco.
it's delicious.
Where'd you get it from?
So there's Taco Cabana, which is one of my favorite restaurants for years in Texas because it's fast food Mexican, but high quality, and they sell beer. And actually, they sell beer in a big cooler tub of ice. You just grab a beer out of it, and you.
I remember there was Taco Cabana in.
So I didn't get beer for breakfast.
Yeah, there was Taco Cabana in Atlanta. There's one in New Mexico as well. I just the one time I remember it, we did a really cool. Oh, lost your voice there for a second, Dan.
You lost me, yeah. So unfortunately, I am in Texas, and so I don't have great connection speed. I'm on Wi-Fi and stuff like that. It is what it is.
Yeah. So I went to Taco Cabana after a great night out with a bunch of friends in Atlanta. We went around to like 4 or so of the LGBTQ clubs there in Atlanta. Saw Anderson Cooper at one of them, but it was a fun night. And then we went to Taco Cabana at the end of the night, and even though sour cream is free, you can ask for sour cream. One of the people that was with us thought that you had to make out with the waiter to get free sour cream, and that's how she got sour cream. But that's my Taco Cabana story.
It's a good Taco Cabana story.
All right. It is. So, sad news this week in the world of libertarianism. We lost a giant in the field. It was not a surprise. We've been hearing for. We knew that he was sick. Knew that his time was running short. He had entered hospice earlier, and he succumbed to cancer. But David Boaz, former executive vice. I can't remember exactly what his title was, but he was with the Cato Institute for over 40 years, since 1981. Really was kind of the intellectual backbone of the think tank there in DC. David Boaz was a Kentucky-born, Vanderbilt-educated. Really got into political philosophy during his degree. Went to work for Ed Crane and during the Ed Clark campaign for president in 1980, and soon came to Cato Institute in 1981. There he served, and really was, like I said, was the intellectual backbone of the Cato Institute, and just an absolutely just tremendous loss for the Institute, losing his voice.
For all of us, he's just a brilliant scholar. He used to do a debate that many people got to see: libertarianism versus conservatism. And they would do it at SFL events. They did it at YAL events while YAL was still pretending. He always kicked conservatism's ass. It was fantastic. Just a great speaker, and really a guy who kept abreast of all the issues. So
it wasn't. It didn't matter what you. Yeah, it didn't matter what you talked to him about. He always had. I mean, would just rip off from jump and just be able to nail it.
He never rested on his laurels. He was always able to apply libertarian principles to whatever was fresh in the news that day.
Yep.
Which is really awesome.
Yeah. I did want to play one quote. This is from I know you were at the LibertyCon. It was the one that I was not able to attend this year. It's his final lectures, essentially.
Yeah.
He's bald from chemo and all that stuff, but he still just gave a fantastic speech. But this was shared by Becca Congdon, who's now the deputy executive or managing editor of Reason magazine and a friend of ours on the show. Becca is awesome. So let me share this.
We libertarians, most of us Americans, are liberals. Liberalism is a universal creed. We believe that all people are endowed with inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not just some people. And that idea is incompatible with political ideas based on blood and soil or treating people differently because of race or religion. And so when you see self-proclaimed freedom advocates talking about blood and soil, or helping a would-be autocrat overturn an election, or talking about LGBT equality as degeneracy, or saying we shouldn't care about government racism against black people, or defending the Confederacy and the cause of the South, or joining right-wing culture wars and supporting politicians who want to use the state to fight their enemies, or posting Holocaust jokes and death threats on Twitter, recognize that for what it is. Speak up, fight back, tell people that's not America, and it's certainly not libertarianism.
So yeah, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. He offered several books, but three of the big ones: the Libertarianism, a Primer, came out in 1997. The Politics of Freedom in 2008, and then the Libertarian Mind in 2015. That's where I met David at, I believe it was LibertyCon in 2015. He had a bunch of his books. He signed a book for me. Met him a couple other times at Libertarian Party events. Just a wonderful person, and kind of, he held a room. Like if he was in the room, people just kind of naturally gravitated to him and listened to what he was saying. Just a phenomenal person, and a tremendous loss to the liberty movement. One that needs leadership, one that needs a voice now, that I think
it is
who becomes
absolutely
the new voice.
So first of all, in the spirit of David Boaz, I just want to say that in America, we pronounce Primer, primer, when we're referencing a book, and primer is paint. But I only say that because he was a guy who would point to the correct thing, and then everybody would laugh, because he had that way of saying, look, there are all these things out there that we know, libertarianism, English grammar, whatever it is, and we're all in it together. You can always connect the common human experience with libertarianism. And, David was a guy who had the ability to hear what you were saying and then talk back to you with libertarian ideals. And he influenced so many people. His book, Libertarianism A to Z, one of my favorites, early on. And in fact, the Libertarian Party gave that out for a long time. And then we stopped, and I'm not sure why. It's been interesting to see the silence of the bigots masquerading as libertarians in talking about what's happened here, because they know that if they openly criticize David Boaz, it would cost them politically, but they can't praise him because they've committed to the things that David Boaz stood against.
Yeah.
So
they did call him one of the regime libertarians. I remember there was a video out there about regime libertarians, and he was included in that with Nick Gillespie and Nick Sarwark and several other people. I think you were in that video.
I was in the video.
regime libertarian.
Mm.
Naughty Dan.
Well, it's interesting because Eddie Izzard has a thing where he calls himself executive transvestite, and I equate regime libertarian with that same sort of thing. We are in the elite brand
Exactly, Joe.
of yeah. It's a tragic loss, but we have a strong libertarian candidate running for president this year.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier about Chase and how much he represents the legacy of the movement that David Boaz wanted to create and support through his years of activism and writing. And so, in many ways, the best way we can honor David Boaz is to do everything we can for the Oliver Tremont campaign.
If they let him on my ballot, I will absolutely. That's the sad thing. I don't know if West Virginia is going to do it. They haven't said anything. I don't think they've even put anything out about his candidacy yet.
It is an interesting thing because, I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, but in many ways, they're sort of killing themselves because votes for the presidential candidate has a great deal to do with the number of delegates you get.
Well, not only that, but there's also that you want to have a presidential candidate on your ballot if you're even if your ballot access race is not based off of the president's running. It's in West Virginia, it's based off of the governor's running. But if you don't have a president candidate and you're expecting people to just drop down and go for the libertarian and governor's race, that you're costing yourself votes doing that. We put together,
no question.
Yeah, we put together a plan in 2020 to, we had, of course, Joe.
Yeah.
And then we had David.
And Erica, right?
We had David Moran run for Senate because Senate was the second office on that ballot. And then Erica running for governor, which is the ballot access race in 2020. Now, I think Erica outperformed all three. And I don't think that Erica's going to have a problem getting ballot access for the Libertarians in 2024. But why take that chance? And you're not. I don't know. We've really beaten this all to death, but the plan that Angela came up with to not run Chase in red states but run him in blue states, which to me, if you're trying to have the influence on the outcome of the election, you run him in the purple states.
Right. Well, first of all, it's stupid because the red states, it's completely safe to run him in.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
However, if they're going to do this stupid shit, the states that they're going to punish are strong Mises states, Alabama, Kentucky, etc., because it's the votes for Chase Oliver that determine how many delegates they get in 2022. So if they don't get a lot of votes for Chase Oliver in Alabama, Alabama's not going to have a lot of delegates.
Nope.
Which,
they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. But the plan there, and if you run Chase in West Virginia, Chase will get 1-2%, but he's not going to cost Donald Trump. The only thing that I can see that they're trying to do is to somehow give Donald Trump the popular vote, which he's never won.
Right,
but that it still doesn't make sense. Chase didn't come up with that margin. Like Joe Biden had 85 million votes, and Donald Trump had 77 million votes. Joe didn't have 8 million votes to give Donald Trump.
No, and the popular vote is completely ridiculous because the popular vote now is always the margin of victory in California. California, is 5 million votes on the blue side. Republicans don't even campaign in California because they've got no chance. It's the most expensive media market there is. And so the idea that the popular vote is anything is completely stupid. But for sure, it's just it's
Well, Chuck
so
puts,
dumb that we get dumber by talking about it.
yeah, I mean, Chuck makes a good point. Angela is not the campaign manager, but I think that's a fundamental flaw of the whole Mises strategy is to think that the National Party is the one that sets
Yeah,
policy,
exactly.
and
Right.
the National Party is there to run candidates. The candidates are the ones who set the policy for their campaigns based off the campaign's location of where they're running. Like it just doesn't make sense. But before we get too far, because I'm tired of talking about that stupidity. Yes, David Boaz was a wonderful person, a wonderful advocate for liberty. If you're asking me who would be next as far as intellectuals go, I would say somebody like uh, Andy, uh, damn it, young Andy,
Andy Craig.
Andy Craig. Yes,
Yeah, Andy
that's
Craig is up
probably a guy
there.
that has the intellectual chops to.
There are, yeah, I mean, there are other people too outside of the traditional libertarian movement. I mean, you know, Matt Walsh at Reason,
Yeah.
Soren Dayton at Niskanen, who, full disclosure, is my neighbor. There are other people out there in that space, but nobody's going to carry the water that David did for everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't
It's
think we
going to
should
take a while.
try. Yeah,
It's going to
you know,
take a collective effort, and it's going to take a while before that person
right,
emerges.
right. I mean, you know, the movement still has its lions, the Matt Kibbe's,
Yeah.
people like that. But it was, yep, that's right, Chuck. It would be awesome to have you as a neighbor, although you already went to Tennessee. So I know you're unlikely to move a second time. But yeah, it's a damn shame. We're gonna miss him.
Yeah, we are. But he did his work. Life well lived, and glad that I got a chance to meet him and
Yep, me too.
listen to him and hear his brilliant words. It's still out there on the internet if you want to go see what he said in the past and learn from him. You still can. That all that stuff's still out there. There's plenty of stuff out there to do, to read his books and all that stuff. All fantastic stuff. So let's see. Also in the news this week, actually, as the results are being announced, the European parliamentary elections. So some countries were having full elections all the way up and down the ballot. Some countries are just electing members to the European Parliament. And the results have actually triggered another election that'll be coming fairly soon. So, in the results of the election, let me actually share this because this is actually pretty good.
It's interesting. It's also worth mentioning that this is sort of the first big election with the UK out.
Yes. So yeah, this does not include the UK. This is from Le Mans, the French newspaper. So the results are kind of give you a list of the parties here. So the radical left, social democrats, the environmentalists and regionalists, and the centrists and liberals kind of form the left side of the European Parliament. The conservatives, the far right, which is there was one party before, now it's kind of split into three different factions. There's a far right European conservatives and regionalists party. There's an identity party, far right, and then there's just kind of a miscellaneous far right grouping. Those are going to make up the right side of the parliament, and there is a bare majority for the right parties this time. Right now, is the left in the parliament figures to be about 302 seats. The right is at 357 seats with 47 others. Let's see in this block right here. And then 14 seats have yet to declare. So the numbers may move here or there a little bit, but looks like the right side will have the majority in the parliament. Whether the the conservative grouping, this 179, can work well with the other two more radicalized right groups is going to be
Yeah, I really
kind of
don't think they
interesting.
Hey,
can.
hit the toggle to see what it looks like for colorblind people.
Oh, sure. It's very nice, isn't it?
Ooh.
I like it.
Ooh, let me see the other one with the color with that one, with that filter. Cool. Scroll down.
I love it.
I
Yeah.
want to see that one.
We are full service here
Nice.
at the Political Deep Dive.
I love it. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
It's
Okay.
very
very
nice.
nice.
I've never seen anybody do that before. The thing is that European conservatives are, essentially Marxists. They're compared to American conservatives. There's European conservatives are far to the left of Nancy Pelosi. They are
I don't know.
none of
Well, they're not. Yeah, they're not the far right, the nationalist parties, the Fidesz in
yeah,
Hungary,
yeah,
or
but
the
European conservatives aren't calling for, gun rights for their citizens or,
no.
removal of taxes or anything like that.
It
They're,
is interesting to
you
see
know,
that the liberals are on the left side in Europe
yeah,
because the liberal parties. I mean, the
yeah,
liberal
well,
parties generally are more of the economic liberals.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, all of Europe, with the exception of far right, really represents a mostly large authoritarian government.
Yeah,
Now, their purpose in terms of what they're going to do with the government is different. If you look at Ireland and Italy, some of the Catholic countries, Poland is in that group as well. They tend to be morally more conservative than the French, who
sure.
are in a different space. On the other hand, 50% of the reason that England is out of the UK is because the French try to tell the British how they can make cheese, which is,
Yeah,
not something you should do in terms of
fishing and all that stuff. Yeah,
a European government.
the
Exactly.
interesting result here is in France, where the far right party, and we've had
Yep.
scares from France in the past of the far right
Le Pen.
party taking over, and
Yep.
they do really well in the first election, but then in the runoff they end up getting trounced. Here it's a traditional parliamentary election, so it's basically first result gives you your seat. So the far right did a lot better here. They won 30 of 81 seats in France. And in results, and Emmanuel Macron's group, I think they're in the liberal grouping, but
Right.
they fell to one of the lowest results. They fell below, or right at the Social Democrats in France. So
Right.
in response, Emmanuel Macron has dissolved Parliament, which led to a very interesting tweet from the redheaded libertarian, which we'll laugh at here in a moment. Um,
I was gonna say,
that
which redheaded libertarian though, too?
the redheaded libertarian on Twitter, the
Yeah.
one that's on the Timcast.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The craziest of them.
yes,
Not
yes,
our friend Elaine,
no, Elaine's
who
awesome.
also goes
Yeah,
by the red.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so I'm not sure how long it's going to be before the French election, but parliamentary elections don't take a whole lot of time. We're right in the middle of campaign season for the Brits, who are going to have their election on July 4th. So while we're
It's
watching
gonna be a
fireworks
doozy.
go off, there'll be fireworks going off in Britain. Probably seeing the Labour government return there in Britain. I'm assuming
Yeah,
Keir
I agree.
Starmer will be the prime minister there in France. So that is, it's concerning for me because again we're seeing the hey Hody, how you doing? We're seeing the rise of more of, and again this is a parliamentary election, so you're not seeing runoffs like they do in France. where the voters then congeal to pretty much soundly reject the far right. But they're getting more and more power in the continent, which is not good. Um, this wave of far right nationalist parties, it makes me start to think of interwar period from Europe. Like we are seeing a situation where we're going to end up having, uh, yeah, the things breaking apart in Europe like we've never seen before. I know that Ukraine is probably one of the things that we can talk about. That one of the things that may have hurt Macron is that he has been very vocal proponent of not just being involved in Ukraine and arming them, but also oh, we lost Dan. Dan's down, but Lieutenant Dan. So yeah, we're coming to a point where we could be seeing a breaking apart of the European order that has been existent since the end of World War II. And I don't like that idea. I mean, that's, Europe, divided Europe is usually not a recipe for good things. And, um, with Europe's history before 1945, the propensity to be at war a lot. Oh, we got Dave back. Hey, the propensity to be at war a lot. The idea of keeping the European Union together is a lot more palatable than the alternative. But not the only election result that we had this week. Earlier in the week, Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, had a defeat of sorts. He's still going to be Prime Minister of India, but his party lost seats to a. I mean, I would say it's probably more of a left-wing movement.
Yeah.
In India.
They no longer have an outright majority.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to form a government with somebody else.
Yeah, the BJP party lost about 14 or no, lost over like almost 50 seats in the Indian parliament. Fell short of an outright majority, which he had enjoyed in his previous two elections. So yeah, they're going to have to form alliances with some of the regional nationalist parties, which makes no sense, but regional nationalist parties in India to form government, which is going to be a first for him. We'll see how well they can keep things together, but
especially because Modi has a
wow.
I cannot
Mr.
believe
President.
the presidential candidate Chase Oliver is on our show. What a privilege. Chase, thank you so much for everything that you've been doing. You've been working so hard. I am really excited. I'm doing everything I can to advocate for your campaign.
Yes.
Your candidacy.
Let's get Chase on the ballot.
That's awesome.
Uber
nice. Home. That's good. Yeah,
get home safe.
This was the kickoff party in Atlanta today. I unfortunately was not able to make it. I had to be in Houston, but I can just imagine how excited hot Atlanta was for favorite son Chase Oliver. So I wish I had been there.
Yes.
Yay.
We love Chase.
I do want to blow our own horn a little bit and point out that every candidate who was on the political deep dive before Tuesday is the kickoff party. All right, good. Every candidate who was on the political deep dive before the show, before the convention, ended up on the presidential ticket because the only people who came,
privileges.
Exactly, were our president to be Chase Oliver and Mike Tremont. So I'm excited about that. I apologize for the misstatement. The kickoff campaign is Tuesday in Atlanta. I might be able to make it. Flying back tomorrow. I can't make it. I'm in Houston now, but man, people who live in the greater Georgia area, please
Yes.
Get down there for a great time. And if you don't, if you can't make it out there, everybody should go to votechaseoliver.com. And I think there's a new campaign website as well. I apologize, I don't know that. I have votechaseoliver.com bookmarked. And one of the important things to know is that early money counts twice. So if you're concerned about the fact that you only have $5 to give to the campaign, $5 given in June is the equivalent of $25 given in September. So give that $5 right now.
Yeah.
$25 given right now. Go ahead.
Well, remember that it's no longer election day. They talked about November 5th as being election day, but most states are, there are states that do voting by mail only, like Arizona,
Yep.
Oregon. Um, States do early voting.
Early voting.
So it's really election season that really kicks off at the end of September. So the earlier you can give money to a candidate, the much better it's going to be able to be used more effectively and getting the word out. I did hear that Chase is going to be part of the free and equal debate in July, and that's going to be awesome.
Fantastic. Well, and one of the other really interesting things about that is that we're in Pride Month, and one of the most important topics about Pride is that Pride isn't just about celebrating; it's about visibility. I'm old enough to remember when Queer Nation, their chant was, "We're here, we're queer, get used to it." And it was a very meaningful statement because that's what most people need to do is they just need to get used to the idea that the world had changed and their lives were still completely the same as they'd always been for the people who weren't affected. And Chase's campaign is about visibility for the idea that the government doesn't have to be as big as most people want it to be. Chase is one of the guys who represents the idea that there are other competing ideas out there. And when we allow society to compete against government, when we allow society to compete at all, we all benefit. And so Chase's campaign is about visibility too. And so it's so exciting to have this happen right now.
Yep.
And I am predicting right now, I don't know where Chase is going to finish in the whole thing. Chase is going to do better than Robert Kennedy Jr. for sure. I am convinced of that because he is the most articulate.
Definitely with less brainworms.
Definitely with less brainworms. I mean, 100%. I'm sure that's true. But also, the other thing about it is more consistent in his principles.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Chase is a guy who's been committed to the libertarian position. I had the great honor to, in 2022, during a terrible time, sit in front of Chase at the Reno convention. And we commiserated with each other as we saw, quite literally the shit hit the fan. But we knew that there were better times on the horizon. I wish I'd known that it was going to be this positive, a candidate of this stature running. And so, Chase, thank you so much for tuning in. And Dave, I feel bad for hijacking the show to talk about it, but I'm just every day. I was out at lunch today. We had a celebration lunch for my nephew's graduation, and I was so happy to be able to talk positively about something that's happening in the liberty movement. And that happened because of Chase. So, it's Sunday. Oh, happy day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my churchy quote.
A couple of great comments about David Boaz from Chase and Hody. That Boaz would definitely sit and talk with you. He didn't like put on airs about, I'm with this group or that group. He was just genuine no matter what, and would talk to anybody and really provide the the gospel of libertarianism, of liberalism and libertarianism, and definitely was just a good, genuine person. And yeah, I
Genuine.
agree. Mount Rushmore
And
for libertarians, Bose is on it.
yep. And the other thing about David Boaz was that he had a genuine charisma about him, right? You could sit down and you could talk to him. And we have some deep thinkers in the movement who, they're really smart people, but occasionally their understanding of polite society and thank you notes and things like that are a little lacking. Bose was the complete package.
Yeah.
He was a true gentleman and a scholar.
Yep. Absolutely. A couple more points about Chuck. Yeah, definitely would always sign petitions. Always cared about the Libertarian Party, even though the Libertarian Party gave him plenty of reason. Like I said, that one video about the regime libertarians and all that stuff.
Yep.
You know, even though there were elements within the Libertarian Party that did not care for him, he cared for the Libertarian movement, and by that extension, the Libertarian Party. I'm no, don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm sure he wanted it to be better.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it's almost going back to the Modi thing. It's almost like kind of what the opposite of what's going on in Europe is happening in India, where they're moving away from more of that nationalist propaganda. Yes, they won re-election, but they're much reduced strength, and there seems to be a more gelling opposition to what's
Right.
going on in
And,
India.
there's one other story uh, about that. The polling in India was unbelievably wrong. They have a poller, a guy named Pradeep
Oh yeah, yeah,
Gupta,
yeah.
who is sort of the Nate Silver, and he was so wrong. He broke down and cried on the air,
Yeah, I saw
apologizing
the news
for.
about that.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it goes to show that polling is really an inexact science. It's always been kind of bad, but now it's really bad.
It's really
And I
hard to poll. Like
yeah,
a country with 1.4 billion people to get some kind of an accurate poll with the country. It's a parliamentary democracy as well. So you've got not just national parties, but you have local parties. To be able to identify the strength in states that are massive
yeah,
versus smaller states to get an accurate representation of the polling, which is why I mean, like I look at national polling for the presidents, and they're like, oh well, Trump is leading Biden by this, or Biden's leading Trump by a point or two. National polls don't really matter. Like we're talking about a series of statewide polls that you need to be talking
I,
about
I
to get
think
us true
I think
strength.
that part of the issue too is that polling is not really good at understanding who is actually going to vote,
Yes.
because there's a lot of, you know, I truly believe that the MAGA people are disproportionately represented in our politics because they always turn up to vote. It is part of their duty, their sacred vow, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of liberals and dare I say libertarians don't vote. In fact, libertarians used to say, don't vote, it only encourages them. Well,
True.
here we are. And it's crazy to see so many people feel politically homeless now and not have anywhere to go, and to
Yeah.
feel like they have to, like, I know people who are, and I don't want to start off the firestorm in this place, who would never have described them as single issue voters, but can't vote for the Democrats because of the radical fringe in the Democratic Party. They're like, I don't want to give power to AOC. I don't want to give power to Rashid Tlaib. And these are people who are generationally Democratic voters.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're protected in their states because they live in solid blue states. So they're not worried about losing access to abortion or rights, stuff like that, selfishly. And instead, they're like, all we're going to vote about is foreign policy. And in this case, foreign policy, I don't think it's going to matter because I think in these solid blue states, they're not going to change anything. But Texas,
I mean, who knows? Like, if you,
yeah,
I mean, say Donald Trump gets reelected, has a House and Senate, he has the Supreme
Yeah.
Court, they pass a 3-week abortion ban or just outright ban of abortion.
right.
What's going to stop?
What would this? Well, I mean, ideally the Supreme Court. The question is, what would this court do when that case gets there? And it's a weird thing. I mean, this is a weird court for stuff like that because, it's
Yeah, I mean, there are
people know
some
too
Supreme
many
Court
people do.
justices that get there, and then I think they kind of
Yeah.
overcompensate. Like we've had some Supreme Court justices nominated by Republicans that really ended up
Yeah.
more on the left side. I think they overcompensate when it comes to the president that nominated them, and I think that was the case when it came to some of the court rulings around the election.
Roberts. I think Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Brett Boy.
Kavanaugh. No, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch.
Gorsuch, sorry. And actually, I meant Gorsuch, not Kavanaugh. I think Roberts, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh have been incredibly disappointing to the social conservative movement because
But
those
Gorsuch
guys
was kind of a known quantity that he was not
right.
quite
He was a
down.
known constitutionalist, and he pisses a lot of people off. He pisses
Yeah.
off liberals, of course, as well, because he doesn't advocate for a strong federal government protecting people's rights against an overreaching state government. He is,
Yeah.
A limited power guy, and that's a weird place to be. On the other hand, when it's been time to expand the powers of federal government to do this, that, and the other thing, he's been consistently against that too, frustrating conservatives.
Yeah.
Amy Barrett Browning, or whatever her name
Amy
is.
Coney Barrett.
Amy Coney Barrett Browning is like Robert Burns's girlfriend. I mean, she's social conservative through and through, and she's going to be on the court for 40 years, and we're just going to have to suck that up
until the end of the
right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. And that's just unfortunate. But that's the other interesting thing about it is that the Democrats who are left on the court, the liberals who are left on the court, they're not going anywhere in 4 years. They're all, knock on wood, none of them are near retirement age.
Because they replaced Breyer with Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Right. And Elena Kagan.
Sotomayor.
Sotomayor is also relatively young. Right. But it's six. Well, and so then, of course, the interesting thing is that Roberts, I mean, right, we have Obamacare because of Roberts.
Yeah.
Right. He voted for it. That is crazy. Now, I certainly disagree with him pretty strenuously on that. In fact, I can't understand it at all. But the idea that you would say, well, that guy is a conservative. He voted for the biggest government of all time.
Well, he's despite the government arguing it was not a tax, he said, yeah, it's a tax. Right. It's a government tax. It's perfectly acceptable. Which, I mean, it's confounding. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I don't know. I still do not put any faith in the Supreme Court. It's
I don't really either.
It's like the whole adage that relying on 9 federal employees to rein in the power of the federal government is not always the right thing to the right thing to hope for, especially
And
with the
that's
ideological
100%.
bit.
Right. Yeah. And that's 100% where we are.
Yeah.
The reason that I'm a libertarian, and a small L libertarian, is because I fear the power of government.
Hey, Heidi.
Not
Hey, Dan.
because I want to, see specific things happen. I want to see specific things not happen. And that's what I'm hoping for. And as the government gets larger and larger and does crazier and crazier things, I keep hoping that Americans will wake up and say, yeah, something's got to be done. And the only thing that can be done is to recognize the fact that we shouldn't be inflicting on our will on each other. But instead, each side keeps thinking, when I get in charge, well, I'm going to do this to you.
And
And it's
that's
terrible.
we're seeing that in news reports after the Trump speeches after the conviction, that boy, when we get in power, look out.
Yeah.
And we're getting
And
to a point now where we're having government by revenge, which
it's 100% true. And the fact that people don't see the correlation, they don't see the correlation between banning plastic bags and whatever is the craziest Republican shit that they've come through too, right? I know Republicans are talking now about banning vowels from the alphabet because vowels are. I'm just kidding. I
well,
made that up. But
vowels are
yeah,
woke.
vowels are woke, and so they want to get rid of the vowels. But whatever is the latest stupid thing they're doing, it's always tit for tat. And anytime you use a small majority to get your way, and I try to go back and think like, what's the first thing that I remember that was really bad? Obviously, Obamacare is terrible on this,
Yeah.
but you could go back and say, well, what about the continuation of
Well,
the
No Child
war?
Left Behind.
No Child Left Behind. In many ways, the creation of the Department of Education. It's fascinating too. Jerry Brown, who was governor of California, ran for president as a Democrat. He was the largest critic of the Department of Education being created. People forget the Department of Education's only been around for 50 odd years.
Not
All
even
that
that.
stuff,
Yeah.
it's one thing after another. And the problem is that each side escalates. Gary Johnson put it really well. He said, we are being kept in a state of perpetual debt and unending war to justify more and more extensions of the power of government.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens. The Democrats come in and they say, oh, we've got to worry about, the war state or poor people having this issue or billionaires being out of control. And so in order to do that, we've got to
Yeah.
we've got to increase our powers. And so they do that, but in reality, they're just increasing the power of government. And then Republicans come in and they say, well, in order to protect society, we've got to do defensive marriage or whatever, the crazy shit that they've pulled. And then, but really, what they've done is, again, they've increased the power of government.
Yeah.
There's got to be some way.
And we're playing. I've said it. You play zero sum games with politics. Eventually, you're going to be rewarded with the sum of zero. Like it's eventually going to happen. We often create the cudgels with which we're eventually beaten.
Yeah.
We're seeing a rise in political violence, especially in Europe. This election saw violence against some German candidates. There was an attack on the prime minister of. Well, there was the attack on the new prime minister of Slovenia, but then there was an attack this weekend on the prime minister of Denmark, and actually that may have helped the left wing win in the European elections in Denmark. Might have backfired on the on the right side there in Denmark, but yeah, it was absolutely we're seeing the rise in violence and we're seeing the rise of threats in the United States. We've seen things happen. Of course, January 6th, but the Cincinnati FBI office getting shot up. We're
Yeah,
we're not even in the heat of the political season. We're seeing people just
right,
riled up to the point where I don't know that we get
right,
through this.
right. Well, it's a fascinating thing, and there's certain things that we can't even talk about for fear of being censored by YouTube or
Sure.
something like that. But you see acts not just of insurrection at the federal level, but against police officers and sheriffs at local levels. People in a state of rebellion
Yeah.
because people's natural state is to be free. And, it's funny, there's this reverence among a certain group of libertarians of the killdozer guy.
Marvin Millen.
And
Yeah.
yep, you know, it's an interesting thing in that that guy had reason to be upset, but he also had reason to think I did a little bit of, by digging my feet into the ground and refusing to go along with things, of exacerbating the situation myself. And, here we are with a scenario where the guy goes in and didn't kill anybody. It's unclear that he didn't kill anybody because he didn't want to kill anybody.
True. I mean, could have.
It's, he
I mean, it's hard. I
could have
mean,
killed somebody.
okay, you're in a bulldozer
Yeah.
outfitted with like
No,
tons of
so,
metal and things like
for,
that. It's fairly easy to get away from it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely true. It wasn't a high speed thing. I mean, there was right. There was also he had the ability to fire guns out of it, and I agree, Janice. The Killdozer guy had his reasons. Uh, you know, the city cut off access to his property. Um, there was a lot of frustrating stuff going on there for him. I agree with that. But my biggest point about it is that when we celebrate him, we celebrate vigilantism, and we can't complain about one group of vigilantes and not another. And it's interesting because, I was a strong defender of Kenosha Kyle, who, killed
Rittenhouse.
those people in Wisconsin. But the last week, he has been repugnant. Just
Uh,
terrible.
yeah, I've seen some of his. I mean, I think he's been repugnant the whole time.
Yeah, I
I
mean, the
don't care
stuff,
about the shooting and all that
yeah,
stuff. I mean, his like before that, sucker punching a girl and all the other stuff that he's done since. He's
yes,
he's he's a piece of shit.
there. I mean, it's an interesting question. Was he a piece of shit, or was the response that came to him for doing a perfectly legal action? Right? Here's a guy who then gets, the full weight of anti-Second Amendment people, of
Sure.
pro-protest people thrown on him, and he gets labeled with all the worst possible terms. And right, he was 17.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
They made him. The left
I
made Kyle what he is.
Sure. I'm. My whole thing is that it's both sides were horrible to hang their lives on this guy. Like
Yeah,
he was not a good person in and of himself to begin with. Yes, he was 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds do dumb shit. But
I mean,
the
but
one side lionizing and one side demonizing him um, was, both sides were short-sighted on this one.
yeah, I don't know. He went and stood in a place where nobody was with a gun to defend that property. And then people came to him, right? There was nobody there when he started off the evening. So it's not like, he went out looking for trouble. He said, I'm going to a spot where there's a property that needs to be defended, and I'm going to be there.
Did
People
did the
came looking
property
for trouble.
owner did the property owner ask him to do that, or I can't remember. I thought
What
the property
there
owner
was there,
not asked him.
the property owner did not ask him. What happened was 2 days beforehand, there was an older business owner trying to defend his property, and asking people to go away and stuff like that. And they beat the shit out of him. They beat the shit out of him with a fire extinguisher. And this was just an old guy trying to be. He was being respectful and polite. Please don't hurt my business, stuff like that. A radio host said, "We need everybody who can to come into Kenosha to stop this sort of thing happening." And if you watch the video, that guy getting beaten with a fire extinguisher, that's some serious shit.
Sure.
Kyle shows up as a direct result of that video. And other people do as well, right? They're coordinated. Are they militia people? Yes. Are, without question, many of them holding on to repugnant thoughts? I think so. I think if it had been, if it hadn't been black people rioting, I doubt that a lot of them show up to do anything about it. But
and of course the people that he shot ended up being, well, one of the guys was like a medical guy. That wasn't the one that survived, got shot in the arm, was a medical guy, but the other two guys were not.
A medical guy,
didn't know that.
But even the medical guy was armed, and he was pulling a pistol out. So it's not like that guy was, an angel either. He was a combat medic. He was armed.
Yeah, he was armed. I mean, some guys shooting people in the streets, then, again.
But he wasn't shooting people in the streets. He was on private property. People
he was in the street
him
when he shot the last two people he shot were in the street.
They were chasing him. He was running away. The guy hit him from behind with the skateboard.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. He's trying to run away at that point in time. When the guy hits you with a skateboard, that's not, you are justified to shoot him, even if you are in the street.
Sure.
And then the third guy comes up and he's like, he has his hand up. It's like, watch out, watch out, watch out. But then he's got his hand behind his back and then he's reaching. And that's the guy who survived.
Yeah.
But, it's all on tape. But then, of course, the problem is Kyle then says
he's not a hero in any stretch of the imagination. He just was there and did what he had to do to survive.
Exactly.
And now he's just a parrot for the conservatives.
Now he's a piece of shit.
Just a parrot for the conservatives.
But I think he was a piece of shit before.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if he's a piece of shit before, but I definitely
slugged the girl with, she got into an argument with somebody and he slugged her from behind. Like that's.
But is this before?
It was before the
Kenosha?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not aware of that. There's no reason to hit anybody, regardless of gender, especially a sucker punch. And so anybody who did that is a piece of shit. Yeah. So that's what Kyle did. Then he's a piece of shit. I agree with that.
So I'm not surprised he did the heel turn this week, but he was always kind of in that whole right-wing reverse podcast stuff. So, Hoodie's right.
As you put out, they lionized him.
Yeah, Hoodie's right. The left did the left fell into the trap of the police protected government buildings and they directed them to private businesses, let them protest in front of private businesses, and then when the rage spilled over and businesses started being targeted because there was so much pent up rage and they were impotent because they couldn't get to the places they wanted to get to, the government buildings and things like that. And whenever they got close to government buildings, they get beat back pretty hard. So they were already antagonized, and then they would start to burn down local businesses, which, I will never agree with the idea of burning down local businesses. If you're that mad, go for the gusto and hit the government buildings. Don't burn down private buildings. Because it does you no good.
I mean, I am a true believer of fuck around and find out. That's where the bottom line has to be. If nobody had been looking for trouble that night, nobody would have found it.
Well, mine's more generally on the whole 2020 summer of George Floyd was that they were people were pinned up into these areas, and the police know that if you burn down buildings, you're going to start getting the public against you. That was a tactical maneuver to get the public at large against what was going on, and protecting the government buildings, protecting themselves. So yeah, I mean, that was just the absolutely frustrating thing to watch, is that they're setting a trap for you and you fell into the trap every time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of that.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but we were talking about government by revenge, and the heightening of political violence in the United States, in Europe. Um, and you're right, we've given too much power to government. We have made government the source of all this. We put all this money into government. We put all this power into government, and government knows that it can keep us fighting each other. That's why we have the culture wars. That's why we have, fighting each other for just stupid reasons. The immigration crisis and all these other things to make us fear one another. I will say that they're playing with fire. Government is playing with fire right now because they've gotten people so pissed off at one another that they don't think straight. They can't see straight. And really a small thing. Let's say Joe Biden wins in November.
Yeah. What's that
What
going to mean?
happens then? Or something happens. Let's say it's happened before. We get to election night, and then there's dimpled Chads in Florida. We got to fight this thing for a month in the courts.
Yep.
How bad does it get?
I mean, I honestly believe that the only solution at this point in time is the solution is the dissolution of the union. And I hate to be a American divorce person or something like that, but we're so divided as a country now.
But how do you divide the country, though? I mean, like,
well, we
it's
were
not so
set
much
up
that like red state versus blue state.
We were set. Well, no, that's the problem, is that it is cities versus urban areas versus rural. But we were set up to be like that. We were set up to be 50 laboratories of democracy with no overarching federal government. We could go back to that. We could go back to a minimalist federal government and let the states do their own thing and let people vote with their feet, right? I mean, AJ, it sucks that she has to move, but she is voting with her feet and going to a place that she finds safe and tolerant and
What about states
better.
like Tennessee now that are saying you can't even travel to another state
I mean,
to
clearly,
do the things that you want to do? And
clearly, that is illegal. It is against the Constitution. I think if that got there, that's the interstate commerce, right? There's interstate
but
commerce
I don't
clause.
know. I don't know that this Supreme Court, again, I don't know that the Supreme Court.
I will say that
I think that you got the votes that could, if you cobble together the three liberals and then Gorsuch and Roberts, I think they could.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, let's see how scary things become with a Donald Trump presidency, or would they have the backbone to stand up to Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, what's crazy about it is, where is Trump on this thing? We know that Trump is actually socially very liberal, right? I mean,
Trump's got a few in his bag,
Yeah, right. I mean, he bragged about paying for thousands of abortions when he was a playboy, right? He is, personally,
Oh, but he's born again, y'all. It's okay because he's
Yeah.
Christian now. He's been
Right.
forgiven and he's going to save us all. Did you actually know that his name is Jesus?
Well, have you heard
And they just real close.
That's
Like,
what the J stands for.
yeah.
that's
Have
what
you
the J
heard
stands
the
for.
gospel song for Donald Trump?
No, oh my God, I don't know that over here. But
Yeah, don't. Yeah,
I
wow.
knew that, yeah, I knew it existed, because I am currently in Tennessee, but only for a couple more days. Um,
Hey,
yeah, it's awful here. It is awful here. It is,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're getting
yeah.
out. That is awesome.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Hey,
I'm,
so if you are looking to help AJ out and get a few more dollars
um,
into her pocket, check out
yes,
Ludog Design. There's great stuff there at Ludog Design. T-shirts for the political deep dive, T-shirts for anti-Republican stuff. Fear of that
very anti.
persuasion.
Oh,
So
I think it's all packed. I can't show y'all anything. Sorry.
no, that's cool. That's cool. We
I was like,
understand.
I
It
really
may
don't
take
think
a
I can
couple
find
days to
anything.
send. Yeah, it may take a little bit of time to send out, but yeah, definitely come and check out Ludog Design. Scan that QR code at the bottom. It'll take you to her. Is it
It is Etsy. Yes.
Etsy? Etsy shop. Yeah. So
Yeah.
check that
There's
out.
a few different.
Yeah.
And
Lots of
thank
fun
y'all
stuff.
very much. Everybody has been very encouraging, which is great because I have spent quite a bit of this weekend unintentionally with a bunch of my relatives that are not approving. So if you don't want to buy anything from Etsy, that's really okay. If you will just continue to be a positive light in the world instead of a negative, well, don't, hadn't you heard there's snow there? Yeah, there is. It gets really cold. Yeah, and you know what? Their electricity stays on. The world doesn't end
Yes,
because
they know
there's
how
snow
to handle it.
outside.
And they have legal
Um,
cannabis.
well, yeah, but I can't make that a argument.
Mhm.
Essentially, what somebody said earlier was like, oh, well, what are you hoping to find in Colorado? And I was like, I've heard they have human rights there. Um, yeah, but no, everybody's been really cool. I've had great messages and there have been lots of donations. I do have several family members that have helped me. Papa Bob went over my brakes, rotors, and tires. Uncle Tough has looked at it, everything else, the fluids, the thingamabobs, the fans, the belts, the whirly wigs, all those things. They're doing what they're supposed to do.
Nice.
Um, my nephew Andrew is going to drive the U-Haul across the country for me, so that's fun.
Yeah.
My mom did all my laundry because my washer died.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, it's been eventful. But no, I've had a lot of help, and we're almost there.
I know. I'm so
We're
excited for you. I'm
so
so
close.
excited for you to start this new chapter in your life and get your family to a state that is not absolutely fucked up.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I was like, and now motherfuckers are attacking Dolly. Dolly?
That's
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Like
That's
But,
weird.
I was responsible for some misinformation there where I said it
oh
was the Federalist Society, and it's not. It's the Federalist, which is a different publication than the Federalist Society.
ah
So it's the Federalist who, uh, this isn't a
it was
big
a
change for them.
dumb
They've
article
always been
too.
small-minded. It's so dumb. I mean, how can you not love Dolly Parton? I don't get it. That
Yeah.
woman is amazing.
Yes.
Everything she's
Yes.
done, the story, I'm still waiting for a good Dolly Parton biography pick to come out because I really do want to know the story of, she had this sort of Svengali relationship with, it's not Honus Wagner, that's the baseball
Porter
player.
Wagner.
Porter
Border.
Wagner, thank you. And I really would like to know what actually happened there, and I don't think that story is
We won't see that
well
until
documented until after she
yeah.
passes. You think?
Yeah, I
Maybe,
don't
maybe she doesn't want
she's
to, but
very private.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
don't think that she wants that information out there while she can
she's
control it.
yeah, she is just so amazing though, and it's funny.
Yes.
I think I talked about this last week, but I ended up rewatching Steel Magnolia, and that movie is such a punch to the heart. It's so
Yeah.
strong and so powerful, and Dolly's amazing in it. And I remember seeing an interview with her, and they're talking about that, and obviously one of the themes of the movie is that Shelby essentially gives up her life so that she can have a child, and Dolly has no children, has always been committed to having no children. And somebody asked her about that, and her answer was so good, and she's like, I truly believe that people should have a calling like Shelby did to want to become a parent, and I never did. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. Doesn't
No.
mean there's anything right with me. I just didn't have that calling, and I'm like, that's such a beautiful piece. As a person who's also childless, I never felt that call either. In fact, I thought about what a terrible child I was. I'm like, good God, I don't want another one of me. So
I know I joke a lot about having chloroform if I had kids. Does this rag smell like chloroform to you, kid?
Dolly made sure that kids across Tennessee had books to
Books.
read.
Yep.
Yes.
Dolly made sure that after every single tornado, there was a donation. There were the bottles of water that would roll up. Dolly has donated to so many different
Vaccine.
funds across the state. Yeah, the Moderna vaccine. I got that the day before Christmas Eve.
Wow.
Gosh, 2020, I guess. And we went because Dolly had, honestly, we went because Dolly had donated to it. It was like, well, I feel like I can trust this one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's wild to me that anyone would have an actual problem with her because she hasn't changed at all. She is exactly the person she is now that she was in the 80s.
And
There's this
her
famous story that she entered a drag queen contest, and it was a Dolly lookalike contest, and she lost. And she thought that was the funniest thing ever because she's that person. She just has
and
this huge heart, you
Yes.
know.
she is also a person of faith and a person of substance. And she lives by the dictates of her faith. She is honest and open and true about it. She doesn't evangelize. She doesn't preach. She
Mhm.
doesn't tell other people their engine is wrong. But she has this moral compass that she feels like she exemplifies leading by example. She does. I mean,
Yeah.
I am a richer person for knowing Christians like Dolly Parton who exemplify. I say this all the time too, and as I've said a million times on the show, I grew up Jewish, didn't really stick. But if everybody lived in the world as guided by the Gospels, the actual teachings of Jesus, we would have a wonderful world to live in. Very few people do that, and that's where things go wrong. Dolly's there. She is there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we keep going on, this is a Dolly praise show.
Yeah, I know. We
So
love Dolly.
one thing, Louie now has a Dolly hoodie that will come in handy when we're
Nice.
in Colorado
Yeah. When you
because it
rock
just
them out
felt
in the
like we
cold.
had to represent,
All right, and I'm going to give us our listeners an assignment next week, or in the comments for this show. But post your favorite obscure Dolly Parton song. So, you guys think about that. Put some comments in there, and we'll
All
talk
right.
about it next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me hide the chat. You guys ready for
I'm
the
ready
news
for the quiz,
quiz?
baby.
Let's do this.
we'll see what happens.
All right, CNN News Quiz for the week ending in June 6th, 2024. So everything that happened in the last
That
couple
was
days is not in there.
Shirley's 21st birthday.
All right, let me.
We know what that is.
There.
That's the Boeing Starliner.
The Boeing Starliner, we got IV drugs
Is it
and the
IV
D-Day
drugs?
celebrations.
Yeah.
80th anniversary D-Day. This
Pretty
is
amazing.
probably going to be the last. You might get a couple making it to the next one.
Yeah.
But there'll be like 107 If you were a 17-year-old getting into the military,
You
you're
would have been in the
97
landing.
now. Yeah,
And
you're 97 now. So
Right.
10 more years, you're going to have maybe one or two left. We're rapidly running out of the World War II generation, which is sad. All right, question number 1. Which country elected? This is a great story as well. Which country elected its first woman president this week? Sweden, India, Colombia, or Mexico?
I just want to say it's because of the vast global Zionist conspiracy that he was elected.
It was Mexico, the first female and first Jewish president of Mexico. Congratulations.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think it's
Claudia
going to be really
Steinbaum.
nice for Mexico.
No, it's really cool. I mean, Mexico has always had kind of a reputation of being a very chauvinistic society.
Yep.
And to see and it wasn't just that, she won the election, but the other main candidate was also a female as well. So I hate saying female.
I think they have a higher rate of female representatives in the United States in their legislature right
But yeah,
Yes.
let's see. Heidi got that right as well. What do you, Heidi? All right, question number 2. Which vaccine will likely be updated this fall? Shingles, measles, COVID-19, or chickenpox?
Got to be COVID again, right?
It's got to be
COVID is
COVID
essentially
because, I mean,
a flu
COVID
variant.
is going to become like, I mean,
It's going to be like the flu.
yeah, I mean, it is the flu vaccine. Like they're still saying that there are variants of the quote unquote Spanish
H1N1. Yeah.
Yeah, that they make the flu vaccine for. So, yep, COVID-19
now. That was the
is
first
the
injection I ever gave as a nurse was an H1N1 vaccine. The more you know.
So yeah, new vaccine coming this fall after FDA's vaccine advisors voted unanimously in favor of updating the shot. All right, question number 3. World War II veterans were honored on the 80th anniversary of D-Day this week. Where is the site of the famous landings? Okinawa, Pearl Harbor, Normandy, or Monte Cassino?
Anybody who got this wrong, I will say though, I can't see the bottom left. Oh, Pearl
Monte
Harbor,
Cassino?
Hawaii. No,
Yeah,
Monte Cassino. There was a big battle there.
yeah, I mean, that's
Okinawa,
where
of course, as well.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it was
There's no
Normandy.
casino. It was Normandy. Yep. Norm.
Heidi is 3 for 3.
On fire.
She got the Rona one. She got the Normandy one.
She got Mexico.
She got Mexico. Right on. But yeah, like I said, probably gonna be the last big one with lots of veteran participation. Maybe the 5-year, the 85 years, they might see a few more. But yeah, 10 years, the 90th anniversary. Very doubtful to see much.
Right. I think we're at the stretch where I think pretty soon they're going to have to do the Futurama thing where it's the heads in glass.
The heads in a glass jar.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, there was a World War II vet, Normandy vet that passed away on the way there this last week. Yeah. Question number 4: which social media platform did President Donald Trump join this week? And this one is the height of irony. Instagram, TikTok, X, or Threads?
It's got to be TikTok. Giant.
It was TikTok.
Yes.
Which, is he going to do his little jerking 2 dudes off at the same time dance on?
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad that Joe Biden joined TikTok. Like it was. I mean, after signing the bill to ban TikTok, or in the middle of the legislation to ban TikTok, joining TikTok as part of his campaign, Donald Trump, a lot of the Republican opposition to TikTok, not just the Chinese scaremongering and things like that, but back in 2020, there was a rally that Trump was going to have in, I believe, Tulsa. It was on the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa riots. He was having a MAGA rally in Tulsa, and it's just it sucks that what happened on YouTube or on TikTok was that people rallied and bought up all the tickets to the Tulsa rally, and that's what had led a lot of Republicans to hate on the app. But yeah, now it's bipartisan hate, which sucks.
Yeah.
All right, question number 5. Which city scrapped its plan to implement congestion pricing on busy streets?
I know.
Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, or New York?
It was
Come on, Heidi.
the Big Apple.
How do you get the last one as well?
Yeah.
So Big Apple. I mean, that makes sense. It was either that or Los Angeles. Those two make sense.
And what's happening is that I'm sure they're going to go into it, but traffic is so down into the city that they didn't want to cut it down anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're having people flee from, in-office stuff, and people don't have a reason to go down into the city. If they're not going to work, visit their shops and things like that. I'm sure that would absolutely kill business if they started charging tolls on the local roads.
Yeah.
All right, question number 6. Which weather event caused dangerous conditions across the western U.S. this week? Dense fog, heavy snow, I wish, extreme heat, or record rainfall?
Heat wave.
It is a heat wave.
I agree.
Brutal heat dome, beyond the heat dome, is ramping up and sending temperatures to dangerous levels in California and the West. It is the region's
run Barter down.
Yeah. It is the region's first significant heat wave of the year. 107 degrees. Whew. Lord have mercy. Although out west, it's a dry heat.
I have heard that.
Although a dry heat feels like a convection oven, so
I think that's better than the whole swamp thing we've got going on now.
Yeah, I'd rather do a dry heat than a humid heat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 7. Which mobile phone network experienced outage Tuesday that left customers without service for hours? AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, or Consumer Cellular?
I think it was Verizon.
I don't know.
I think
have
it was
Verizon.
AT&T.
I didn't notice any outage.
Yeah, I'm
I
on
didn't have
Verizon
any
as well.
issue, but I think it's Verizon.
All right. We have a dispute. Verizon or AT&T? Heidi, what say you? Heidi's on a streak right now. She's going streaking.
Because she's in that heat.
Green hat.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh.
She said question.
Oh.
Verizon.
I gotta say it's AT&T.
All right, you go right ahead, sir.
All right,
You're the
go
one
for
with the clicker.
Yep. Nice job.
There you go. See?
Nationwide
Saved us.
AT&T outage
Believe in
temporarily
yourself.
prevented many customers from completing calls between carriers. AT&T. Poor Lily.
There you go.
All right. Next.
Question number 8. Which vegetable was recalled more than a dozen states due to possible contamination with salmonella? Oh, Craig got it.
All right. Nice job, Craig.
The answer is cucumbers, lettuce, broccoli, or zucchini. I actually heard about this one.
I don't know. I would guess lettuce, but is it
Yeah,
broccoli?
that's the problem. It's green in the background here, but it looks like little cylindrical greens.
so
But I heard what it was.
So
Well,
is it broccoli?
no, it's either cucumbers or zucchini. I think it's cucumbers.
All right, let's do cucumbers.
Let's see. Let's see. Anybody have a guess out there in TV land? Oh, Heidi. I think Heidi got it as well. Cucumber. 160 people in the U.S. have been sickened by salmonella outbreak, potentially linked to recalled cucumbers, according to the Food and Drug Administration. Oh, this is the easy one. We'll let AJ handle this one. Which two teams are facing off in the 2024 NBA Finals? Boston Celtics versus Dallas Mavericks, Toronto Raptors versus Golden State Warriors, Denver Nuggets versus Miami Heat, or Los Angeles Lakers versus Orlando Magic?
Heidi.
It's funny because the Raptors against the Warriors is actually, an analog of the Drake Kendall Lamar feud that's going on right now.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and represent my C's.
There you go.
Celtics.
Heidi got it.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi.
Mavs and Celtics.
And Luka Doncic is now out.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's going to be, I think it's going to be a Celtics sweep.
Probably.
That's like the weirdest picture because, just like a toe is touching the floor.
Yep.
It looks like he's.
They're all in action. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool.
All right.
Last one.
Last one for a 10 for 10 week. Boeing Starliner soared towards space in a historic mission this week. How many NASA astronauts were on board? 2, 4, 6, or 8? Who do we appreciate?
Who do we
Who
appreciate?
do we appreciate?
Exactly. I know this one.
2. Yeah, it is 2.
100%.
Boeing Starliner carrying 2 astronauts safely docked with the International Space Station after the spacecraft encountered issues while en route. I didn't even hear about that. So many other screwed up stories either. But yeah, it marks the only 6th inaugural journey of a crewed spacecraft in history. Okay, that makes sense. I guess if you only had 6 different crewed spacecrafts. All right. And Heidi got that as well. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. We did really well this week.
We did really well this week. Now, here's the thing for me. I got to chew and screw. I apologize, everybody. I'm down here with family. We finished the quiz. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. We'll try and get a guest for next week and have a good time then. Maybe AJ will be back with us. Or
live from Colorado, bitches.
Colorado. Yeah. Very nice. So thanks for joining us this week, and we appreciate everybody watching. Give us a like, share, subscribe wherever you're watching us from. It really helps us. Helps boost all of the good things.
Improve those algorithms. Thanks.
Algorithms.
Algorithms.
Remember Al Gore dancing at the Democratic National Convention. But have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you all next week.
Hi, guys.
Night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.